Let's go add me. Let's get rid of that. We're here. That's it. That's the background. We're kind of good. Kind of good as that kind of goes in and of itself as the rest of the room. So I want to change things up a little bit, right? I keep talking about that. So I need to put something back there. Here's the issue with putting something back there. I moved too far away from the camera. I can't read the comments. So that's where that one goes. I think we're going to continue on with over here, besides just flat out rambling, is that that daily inspiration thing. It's like where does it come from? Definitely comes from the oddball, unexpected phone calls. Just got off the phone with somebody and had a great conversation. Went a little bit longer than I expected, but it was fun to chat with him. He's a guy that I met at a networking group years ago. Years ago, he used to go to a Friday morning networking group over in Smithtown. Haven't really spoken to him. There was a possible connection with him and somebody else. That was what instigated, we'll say, that phone call. But just listening to him, and it's like it is a challenge to be an entrepreneur because you have to take care of so many things that are not the business. It's the working on the business and working in the business, that kind of thing, that balance in life. But, it seems like when he was out there actually working with the clientele, that's the fun part. That is the fun part. That's also what he's getting paid for, but that's where the value comes in too, as to what it is that he's doing. How easy and he's a photographer, but how easy does he make things look? And it's like he just does, but it's there, it's all inside. That's the value side of it, what comes there. So with listening to him and listening to where he's at right now with his career and what he's doing, what he's done in the past, it is inspiring, to listen to these stories about folks that have really got themselves in a position, where they are doing what they really should be doing, what they really wanted to do, working within the circumstances, of the time, the time frame, and whether you work at weekends or not working weekends and stuff, travel, how much a part of the whole thing is, how much and how important it is for all of those factors to work together in order for a career to truly fit your lifestyle. So as I sit here thinking about what I'm doing, where I want to go with different things, how to make it work, not work, and whatever, it's like, where do you start? Where is the most important place to start? And I've mentioned this in the past. It is the end. Ooh, that sounds terrible. It's what do you want to get to? I want to get to the end when it's over. No, it's not exactly it. You want to get to the point where you're really purposely living the life. God, this sounds like a stupid tagline, but you're really purposely living the lifestyle within the boundaries of what makes sense for you and your partner, Karen, for the whole thing to be. So, how do you write a business plan? You write a business plan perhaps for yourself, but it has to include the lifestyle. It has to include the softer side of things that that are a factor in the whole thing. It really does. Do you have the patience if you're a business owner, do you have the patience to sit down for hours on end doing paperwork to make sure that's covered? If you got employees, there's a lot of paperwork, obviously taxes, accounting materials, stuff like that. All that stuff has to be factored into it. If you don't want to have anything to do with it, boom. All right. Now you could still be an entrepreneur. Not taken away from that one. But who's your partner? Is it your spouse that's your partner? Might be. And now the two of you are still not working, one's working on the business, one's working in the business. So it's different. And if two of you want to go into business together, it's separate sides of it. You're complementary. That's good. But you're living two separate lives within the within the business. Then you got to really make the choice of like, all right, where do you draw the line between where partners in business and we're just partners, working, living, spouse partners, that kind of thing. Where do you draw the line? Where do you separate? Where do you separate? Boy, and that's such an important factor. I'll equate that with those of you that are working from home. Stevie, pleasure, my friend. And those of you from working from home, it's that where do you separate the home life and the work life? Because it's so easy. It's so easy just to go 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if you're an entrepreneur and you have your own business, that's always on your mind anyhow. So where do you take a break? Where do you get free time? Where do you get not free time? Where do you get downtime? Where do you get the period of time where you get to cleanse the thought as it goes? But it's harder if you have a partner, especially if it's a spouse that's your partner. So being an entrepreneur, it's not that it's not everything it's cracked up to be, but it's not as simple as it is. It really is not. So the partner, you got to have a partner, spouse, you have a partner that's somebody else. Okay. Maybe you just don't want those responsibilities and you become that entrepreneur where you're working for another company that's taking care of everything else, or a small company that you want the flexibility. And you can be doing all the same thing. And again, the guy I was talking to is a photographer. And it had to do with another photographer I wanted to introduce him to. It's like, well, I want to be a photographer. That's the career path. And do what? Take photos. Okay, that's a little generic. But take photos as a business owner or working for somebody else? Well, not a good answer. And then do you take pictures of landscapes? For landscapes, is it animals? Is it people? Or is it cars? Hey, somebody's got to take pictures of cars. Well is never a good answer either. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. And what about travel? So he's explaining to me what it's like to be a photographer for a major newspaper. Whoa, that's a lifestyle. Do you have to worry about getting paid? Do you have to worry about getting clients? No. Do you have to worry about where you're being sent off to? Perhaps, especially if you're a nature photographer. You might wind up in the middle of a jungle someplace, or in Antarctica, or who knows where. It may not be as comfortable as it looks like when we see these photos. All that stuff is a factor that goes into it. So where does your inspiration come from? I think it really comes from knowledge. Really comes from the idea of understanding what goes into so many of these things, including the career of Stevie over here. What really goes into the career of getting on stage, of writing, being funny, and doing that. It is a lot that goes into it. It's not just what you see in the performance. It's not just what you see in the picture, especially, the photographer. You know what was really in the picture that you don't see unless you're doing it? It's the lighting. It's all about the lighting. It's not about the camera. It's about the lighting. Are you using the lighting properly? Would you even think about that? Oh, it's dark out. Turn on the flash. It takes the flash. You're good to go. Nah, not if you're going to be a good photographer. There's a lot more that goes into it. So I find that I think the total inspiration of you, me, other people has a lot to do with learning about all these nuances that come up. Because the more you know about these things, the more intrigued or turned off you're going to be by these various careers. So I think it's so important for these businesses to come in of any different shape, size, whatever it is, to go in and speak to these high school students, or even to speak to folks that are in some sort of career transition, for them to really understand what it's like to work at a different place. And maybe for some, that becomes like an exciting thing because they didn't get a chance to transfer those skills from one place to another place. And those skills are inherent in them. That's their just. Those skills are inherent in them. That's what they're really good at. But maybe they've gotten a little bit bored. Maybe they're just not as excited as they once were being in an industry that they're using those skills, but they never like those skills. They like helping people, keeping things organized, and being a part of that, pulling people along, really making sure that everybody's a part of the team and a worthy part of the team. That's a skill set too, right? If you're out there and you're leading a team and you know that you got a team of 12 people, but there are four of them, they're the foundation. With those four people, you could drop the other eight, but those four people, you can make it happen. Are you a good leader in an emergency? Okay, there are certain things you got to do. But from a true leader, it's those other eight people. That's the future. That holds true across the board. But a good leader really will work with the entire team and keep everybody engaged in the whole process moving forward. And let's assume you're really good with that, but you just kind of like, you know what? I just don't want to do what I'm doing anymore. It's just the same old, same old. So what could be changed? And it's the industry that you work in. Maybe it's the company, maybe it's the industry, maybe it's the geographical location. Could be any one of these factors. Goes to the knowledge, though, of what it is that you're naturally good at doing and learning a little bit more information about some of these other industries. And so many things have changed, and so many things will continue to change. Transportation industry, maybe it was just, straightforward going back 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Now, no, 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 no. Quite a few things have changed quite a bit, with transportation in one respect or another, would it be train, truck, airline, whatever. Maybe it changes up, for you to make that transition. So it's a matter of learning. It's a matter of learning. And I have always found that part of my journey, we'll say, interesting to do because you meet different people, you get thrown into these different challenges. And it's those challenges, I think, is where you really get a chance to learn more about you, about what your just is, about what you're naturally good at doing. Are you adaptable or not? Go on a job interview one day and you go through the whole thing. Yeah, I'm a people person. I like working with people, help everybody become part of a team and move forward. And, I could deal with different situations. I'm good at that. And then they ask you to give an example. And you're like, well, not a good response. Never a good response. Well, but if you can come back with a real specific story about how you really are a people person, which the heck does that mean? I hope you are a people or a person at least, you know. But if you could come back with a real great example of how you led a team of 12 people, and you know that there are four of them that you could do the whole job with, and those other eight people not really there. But if you know, and you could tell them that, there was one person in there, I thought they had potential. So here's what I did. I actually let them lead the team, and I played more of a support role. I became their mentor with doing this thing. If they needed any help with anything, I was there. But I wanted them to see for themselves that they were able to do this. We went out, we took over, we accomplished the project, accomplished it on time. Probably would have done it a little bit quicker if we didn't do it that way, but we were able to do it. And that person is now a manager in another department. What a great story that is. Totally made up story. Totally made up story. Can't take credit for the reality of that story. But that's a great story to tell when you're going on an interview. And maybe that's a great story to tell yourself. How many of us have got these second careers, right? In transition. Oh, I was working at a company, and now I'm not, and I'm looking at something else. Or maybe I want to become an independent person and start my own. I want to become a coach. I want to become a coach. I want to talk about a name that can fit into any category. Oh, you want to be a coach? What kind of coach? One that helps people. Oh, nothing to it, right? You want to become a coach, especially a life coach. Okay, you want to become a life coach. Still, category of what? What's your experience? What have you done? How have you helped other people? And in what stages of their life? Want to be a life coach? Speak with high school students about what college to go to. That's a coach. That's a life coach. Speak to high school students about what career paths to take. Same thing, totally different. You might be able to help students see what they're good at, but to go figure out what college to go to, now you got to know all about all these different colleges and everything that goes along with that. That might not be it. Definitely not. People in transition, another category, right? I work with people and help them through life's challenges, which is half of these things that are stated on that one. Make sure yours is not. I don't care where you're coaching, but who you're coaching and why you're coaching. Make it specific. This way people can see that. This way, one of these days I could refer you to somebody else as that goes. What I didn't realize is this person, I asked him if he could help out the other photographer when it comes to interviewing skills. He goes, I never interviewed there. They just hired me because I was me. I was like, all right, there you go. That's the truth. He got referred by somebody else, and they just said yes because he was referred by somebody that company knew, like, and trusted. Goes into that whole thing. It's like, who you know, right? Goes into the whole thing of who you know. But clarity. So I'm sure that person that referred him was very, very clear as to what this guy did, how he did what he did, why he was good at it, and the job that he was given had to do with taking photos of people. If he was not good at taking photos of people, or was not known to the person who referred him that he took profile shots, head shots, group shots, people shots, never would have called him, never would have got the job. Nope, nope, nope. So it does make sense for you to specify, make it really clear as to what you're really focusing on and who you're really looking to do that with. So when it comes to clarity and being on a job interview and making sure you got clear-cut stories for that whole thing, you want to know something? Maybe you should make believe you're on your own job interview. Now, that would be a fun thing to do. That would be a rather interesting thing to do. So I gave a presentation at the Miller Business Center last week about developing and delivering an elevator pitch. And a number of folks said, the clientele is everybody. So if you went in on a job interview and said, what kind of, I don't know, pick an industry, whatever it is, might as well stick with this, if you're looking for a photography position in someplace and they ask you, what kind of cameras do you like to use? Every camera. I just love taking pictures with every camera. And what kind of situation? Oh, every situation. Oh, that's just everything. I just love everything. It's just like the greatest thing in the world. I take pictures of everything. If it moves, or even if it doesn't move, I'm taking a shot. You can't do that. You can't do that. So here would be the challenge. And I think I'm going to put myself through this challenge too, right? And that would be that write up interview questions for yourself. Write up interview questions for yourself. And then record yourself. You don't have to do this, sharing it with the world. And maybe there's a routine out of this one, Stevie. But write like what to do and what not to do on an interview. This could be a boatload of fun. But write up interview questions that you would ask yourself, whether you're an employee at a company or you're working for yourself or got your own little thing that you got going on. But the would you hire you kind of a thing. Well, instead of saying, would I hire me? And go, oh, I would because, hey, I'm me. How about like doing it for real or as much as for real as possible? So do that. Put it on cue cards and have those cue cards come up, put it on a whiteboard behind you, however you want to do it. And then record your answers with the whole thing. And then let it sit for a day. You don't want to go back to it immediately. And this is where speeches are written and rewritten too, right? You write a speech, put it away, come back a day, and then read it, say it, verbally say it if you're going to be saying this speech out loud, not an article, but really saying it. And then see if it makes sense. You can record it. This way you can listen to it as much as a third-party person as you possibly can. But this would be it. And here's again, we'll go back to that inspiration thing. How are you going to be inspired by it? Because you might say something that you wouldn't, that you might say something because of the pressure of being on camera, and set a limit, right? No more than 1 to 2 minutes to answer any question, right? You might just say something, just blurt it out without thinking about it, and then go back when you're listening to it. Did I really say that? Of course, the answer is you really did say it. It's on camera. It must be so, right? That's it. If it's on camera, it has to be. But it's coming from you. So you know that it's you. And you said it. And then think about, why'd you say that? Why'd you say that? Well, I like working with people that want to do a podcast, but I really like, come to think of it, it's those that are already got a clear cut message and want to go with it. That's really, and it's like, maybe that now, not maybe that, but that really narrows it down to who you really want to work with. Look, I had a conversation with somebody, and you know what I found that I enjoyed, and it was it was a conversation about marketing or whatever. So granted, but the question had to do with doing something a little bit different when it comes to doing these 2-minute spots and having that for social media. And I realized, man, I just rolled an answer out right away. Never really thought about that aspect of it because it's always been longer term, longer length interviews, not little 2-minute snippet kind of things. So put yourself through that test. Put yourself to it. Write up a bunch of interview questions for yourself. 6 questions, 10 questions, whatever you think is appropriate over there. It's got to be more than one. Write up a couple of interview questions, and then get a regular camera, your phone camera, whatever it is. You don't need a camera, just record it. Do the camera thing. Put a little bit more pressure on, especially if you're not really comfortable with the camera. And then answer those questions. Let it sit a day. Come back to it, and then take a look and see what it is that you said that you just spit out as it just naturally flew out of your mind. And then take a look at what you're doing. See if it really does match up. Maybe you do need to change your about section as that goes along. And then, we put a little bit of work on that one, and then tape one for real. Tape one for real. Because there's a lot of places you could put video. And if you don't want to do the video, that's fine, but still tape it or record it and then write it out then, if you can do that. Because a lot of places you could put your about, a lot of about sections out there. We could write an article. Obviously, on a website, you have the about section. On LinkedIn or Facebook, you have the about sections. Or what you can do too is write an article and then make that the highlighted article, where it stays always at the top of your page, not on the top of the news feed, but in that other section. Where it's one of the articles that that always are there, that kind of thing. And you can do a few different things. One about why you do what you do. Another one if you do referrals or with customers, whatever. Make it work that way. But see what it is that you say when you question yourself, when you learn about yourself, when you find out more information about you, what drives you, and where that goes. Now, of course, if it's unbelievably funny, you want to give Stevie a call over there. And if there's good material in there, give Stevie a call. You can write out a routine on that. I think that definitely could be. Had a conversation yesterday with somebody else about if there's a microphone involved, I say yes. And some of the places that put me into. So that's kind of a humorous thing. But I realize I look for that microphone to make it work that way. So there you go. That's the thought for the day today. What do we got? I got the camera right in front of me. Oh, we're 25 minutes into it already. So kind of coming down to the end over here. So it's the learning side of it. Learning. It's always it across the board, whatever it is, that you're doing. Where do you learn? All right. Put yourself on stage, right? As I just mentioned, that's a great way to learn. All right. Obviously, there's a podcast you could listen to and stuff like that. But one of the things that I've always found interesting for me as a way to learn is to interview people, whether it be for program like this. I do these mock interviews. I listen in on the on those high school career days. I listen in on the other companies that are there to find out what it is that they do and what's going on in their world. And it's a lot. Technology is changing so unbelievably quickly. And you could have made that statement going back quite a few decades already, that careers change. There was one comment that was made, if a student going in to get a 4-year degree in social media or something like that, by the time they get out, it's outdated. Wow, that says a lot about going from a 4-year degree in something, right? It just continually changes. So if we are talking to a student, what are you going to tell that student? You have to constantly be learning. Why? Because everything changes. Isn't that true with us too? We have to constantly be learning about ourselves, learning about new things, new ways to do things, but learning a lot about what really keeps us in the game. And maybe working at a different company is what keeps us in the game. A different industry, what keeps us in the game, keeps us moving forward. A new way of doing something keeps us in the game. Being a mentor to somebody keeps us in the game. But that constant learning thing, it's so unbelievably important. So unbelievably important. I wanted to make a reference to what was mentioned this morning. Went to the synagogue. And in the comments for today, about doing mitzvahs. In other words, helping people, going out there and doing to others that you'd have them do to you, but helping people out. And the conversation went a little bit toward, or his comments went a little bit toward, when you're helping other people, why are you doing that? Are you helping them for their sake, or are you helping them for your sake? You know what? If you're just helping somebody for your own purpose, you know what? That's not true. That's not authentic. That's not sincere. That shouldn't happen. If you're helping somebody for completely their benefit, that's actually a good thing, because I think the reality is that it's never just for their benefit. You get a good feeling about yourself. If nothing else, you give $5, $10 to somebody that you're never going to ever see again, just walking down the street and do that. If I took a photo of you when you did that, guaranteed there's going to be a smile on your face. You did something for you too. You go out and you got to help somebody, not expecting anything in return. Not only are you helping them and you're going to put that smile on your face, but you might learn something more about you. I never expected that with doing this high school stuff and doing those kind of things, even doing some of these mock interview nights and things like that. Just go and do that. Did it make me feel good to do that? Absolutely. Absolutely. So I always knew that was there. But sometimes, especially now, listen to other people's stories, listen to see where they're leaning forward with the body language, where they get a little bit more animated about what it is. I've come to notice I do that same thing too. And maybe that's my learning experience. That's why I continue to learn, by talking to folks, by doing this, about what really, really drives me. And that is why you just have to constantly change and adapt as it goes. I don't think that's failure. I think that's progress. Sometimes it's painful. Sometimes it's slow. Sometimes I think it's even backwards. But it's an important thing to do. Keep on learning, my friends, however it is that you learn. Learn from yourself, learn from others, learn from situations, learn from successes, learn from failures, learn from anything. But keep going forward. That's the way it happens. All right, folks, thanks for joining us today here. And as always, want to speak well, speak often, live inspired. Yeah, just might inspire somebody else to do exactly the same thing. Let's cue up the tomato. One of these days, we're going to add music. Not today.